Hello, I'm John Stretton, and my role when I first started was history lecturer, and I came in 1991 as history lecturer, came out of the school system, came into FE, and I came into FE because I did my A-levels in FE, and I loved FE. And I was a school teacher for about 10 years, and I thought if I stay in this school for any longer, I'm going to be Mr. Chips. So I thought, I'll get out of here and go to somewhere where they treat you like an adult, which was an FE college. So it was great. I was here from January 1991 until, I think it was March 2013. And what inspired me was, first of all, I wanted to get back into history because I'd ended up being head of sociology and social sciences in the school. I still taught history, but history was my absolute passion. And I set this department up in the school and I loved it. It was great. We got loads of students, but I thought, do I want to carry on teaching sociology? That was my sort of secondary subject. And then I saw this advert for history in FE and I thought, no, I'm coming down there to do that. Plus the fact it was a good place for us to rock up because we got two little kids before school and we weren't that far away from Brum where our relatives lived, but far enough away. So that was sort of like that. So there's a personal inspiration, but also, you know, to family as well. When I came in 1991, in fact, I remember the head teacher of my old school saying to me, "Why are you going into FE? It's a terrible time to go into FE because they're doing these things to FE incorporation." I didn't know what the hell that was. So, and I thought, well, I'm going to take it in notice, so I'm going anyway. So. You know, when we got here, when I got here anyway, should I say, rather than we, I suddenly found out, yeah, everything was changing. It was coming in court. It was leaving the local authority. I thought, God, what have I done here? You know, this might not be a smart idea. Anyway, so it was leaving the local authority. But that was a good thing in a way, because there's a lot of opportunities. Because what happened then was the college sort of, you know, kind of decided to reorganise, and they split the thing into schools. And I became a head of school, which meant I could carry on teaching, which was good, but also have these management responsibilities as well. So I was in charge of humanities and social sciences. So that's what happened there. So that was about 1994. And then they were talking about merging the colleges. Oh, then they had another reorganisation and created directorships. And then I got promoted to the directorship of that area, plus languages. I think that's when they started City 6 as well. So the guy who had been in charge of languages went off to be in charge, Richard Bradley, went off to be in charge of City 6, and I became this director of humanities, social sciences and languages. And there were about, I think there were 5 of us, something like that, maybe 5 or 6 of us that were directors. And then the colleges merged, and that was around 2000 or so, wasn't it? 2001, 2002. It became Wolverhampton College. Then it became a City of Wolverhampton College because, so by 2004 then, there was an opportunity to become an assistant vice principal. So I got promoted to that. So 2004, they did another reorganisation. I'll become assistant vice principal. And this is when Jane Williams was here. And then Ian Millard becomes principal, and he has another reorganisation, and I became vice principal for teaching and learning. And that's the point at which I kind of, so that would be about, I can't remember the date actually, 2006, something like that. And then that's the point at which I sort of left teaching, which was kind of sad. I tried to carry on, but unfortunately, I couldn't do it, mainly because I'd get a knock on the door and someone say the principal wants to see you. So I was there. So anyway, but then I was here until 2013. Obviously, there was a big rebuilding programme. And the structure of the rebuilding programme, and this was before I was in that level of management. So it was sort of setting some sort of concrete. Once the merger happened, the first thing that was going to happen was they were going to completely redo Wellington Road. So Wellington Road got knocked down and they rebuilt Wellington Road. So in terms of the changes here at Paget Road, there were lots of things we tried to do. So for example, we redid the motor vehicle area Obviously here we were trying to keep things going here. So that was redone, which was pretty good here for the time. We also redid welding and fabrication here because basically this was the only college within 200 miles that did proper welding and fabrication. So, anyway, I did say when I left, don't ever get rid of welding and fabrication, So that was redone here. This kind of thing here was redone, the conference centre. That was redone quite early on in Jane Williams's tenure as principal. The original staff room when I came was where student services is. In fact, actually, that was one of the things when I first came. It was great. You went in the staff room. I remember coming for an interview, and this lady came around with the tea trolley and cakes and. It was and a sausage roll. I thought, God, this is nice. Anyway, so that sold the college to me. But yeah, I think you're right. Actually, down here was a student union area. So you came down sort of this corridor here, and all where we are here was before you got to refectory was a big student union area, and it was really lively. It was full of students and having a laugh and having a bit of fun, and that was good actually. Then that kind of disappeared to do this. The other thing was you were put into large workrooms. So I was in an absolutely brilliant workroom on the second floor when I first came here. And you got your own desk, which was nice as well. It's different from being a school teacher. And that workroom was full of lots of different, some great characters, but it was full of lots of different subjects. You've got scientists in there, you've got mathematicians, you've got historians, you've got politics, sociology lecturers, commercial, typewriting and or computing, people in their business studies and what have you. So it was a brilliant, the sort of the art as well, the sort of the bouncing off of ideas was fantastic. It was absolutely brilliant, it really was. And then that got turned into a maths workshop. I don't know if it still is a maths workshop.
Is that 201?
201. I said 212, no, yeah, 201. And that was a fantastic workroom. But you ask anybody about their workrooms, and they would love them, in terms of, because they were not all one subject base. They were a bit like Wellington Road, lots of different, people, that you could just have a chat to, and different angle on life, really. It was great. Paddy Davis was here as a student in 1961 when this building opened. And she did her HND here, I think. And she was a science technician, and then she became the purchasing administrator, which is how I particularly got to know her. And she was a fantastic person to work with. She was, she would do all the stuff you might need as a head of school. She'd keep you on track, in terms of how much budget you got and everything. But she was great. But more than that, she was absolutely nuts on history. She loved history, and the stuff that she used to do. In fact, I got some of her stuff when she passed away. That was to do with Hubble Grange, which was to do the escape of Charles II, and Ironbridge. Absolutely fantastic stuff. And I've managed to get those in different archives now. The Ironbridge Institute archive, for example, because the stuff she did was so I used to say to Paddy, I used to say, you could go and do a doctorate, really. She just lacked confidence to do it. But she was a lovely lady. Took me out with other people, some great teachers. Really great teachers, Graham Podmore, who sadly isn't with us anymore, but he was an absolutely brilliant economics teacher. Brilliant. Brilliant.
Told Denise Lewis, John, can you remember that?
I do remember that. Yes, I do remember that.
He might have told me the story. Someone told me a very interesting story.
I do have an interesting story about that, yeah. If you want me to say that now, yeah, it's Graham, yeah. Because he was so much fun, Graham was. But and he was like head of A-levels. He was an A-level tutor. And when previous principal Jane Williams was here, it was around the time of the Olympics when Denise Lewis won the gold in Australia. And she thought we could make a lot of publicity out of this. And she went to Graham and said, can you give me the details of Denise Williams? And yeah, well, and he said, I do remember. He said, but I had to expel her because she'd gone on holiday to Jamaica and hadn't come back for weeks. So that all fell apart. And he said it with a little wry smile on his face as well, which was quite funny. A lot of these lecturers, like Graham, Jim Quirk was another one who taught history, and then he ended up in sort of admin side of the college. But he was a great guy, Jim Quirk was. And they'd all come as young lecturers, and they used to have, it was quite a full sort of family affair. So when I got here, they would still talk about the sports events they used to have in the summer. I mean, basically A-levels would finish and those courses would finish, and once they'd done the registers and everything could be shut off. They'd be out playing team sports against each other. It'd be like a holiday camp, I think. Anyway, it was good fun. Science. I mean, Jim Kettle, Suki Ray, who you might be interviewing. These were fantastic science lecturers. So many really, but they were brilliant and. To the extent that, I mean, when my kids were coming up to do A-levels, I would quite cheerfully we lived the other side, so they ended up staying at school over there where they were at school. But I'd have been more than happy for them to have come here and been taught by those guys. And, in engineering as well, there's some great stuff in engineering. We spoke about changes because one of the big changes was that there was a sports hall down there, which was Compton Sports Hall. And the PE staff here used to run sessions there for the students, but also for the staff over lunchtime. You could go down there and swim. The swimming pool isn't there anymore. I think it's became a climbing centre.
It's in now.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's climbing.
Yeah, it's climbing, still that. Yeah. But there was a point at which the college could have taken that over, but we didn't. I think mainly because it needed a lot of money spending on it for a swimming pool to keep it going. Anyway, so that was great. There was a lot of camaraderie around that. There was also people that played in bands. I'm just trying to think now. Marion Winspur, English lecturer. She and her husband played in a band. Simon Larson, they played in that band, and they'd play around and about the place, and we'd get to see them. They were great. So there was that kind of thing. There was quite a good social team that would do things. You could go and join in stuff like gliding over at Cosford or something like that. That kind of stuff. So there was stuff like that going around. But I spent most of my time working with the students. I kind of like, and I've got kids at home, so I tended not to go on that kind of stuff. But it was good because you could do lots of things. Because the students were a bit older, you could take them out, you could do stuff with them, without any of the stuff you had to do with schools, sign about 250,000 forms. You probably have to do now, but you didn't then. It was always a really incredibly friendly place. I mean, I'm a Brummie, and I didn't really ever come to Wolverhampton very often, apart from to go and watch us lose at the Wolves. But the actual college itself and the students and the staff were incredibly friendly. The staff were here for quite some time, but always very motivated for the students. In terms of, what I'd like to be remembered for, I don't know really. I mean, it ended in a slightly sad case because obviously we had a bad inspection towards the end, which was not great. I mean, like most members of staff have been inspected loads of times, but that didn't work out too well. But so I wouldn't want to be remembered for that. I guess being a good teacher, and I think I was a good teacher. I think probably, hopefully, from being a good manager as well. Although Adam might say differently, but I cared for the staff. I wanted to do the best for them, and I really was disappointed we couldn't quite get this building over the line then, so I'm quite excited to see what is going to happen. In terms of the city centre campus, I think that's spot on. I mean, when all of the stuff was being done, I actually kind of thought myself that maybe they'd have been better off just going, as Walsall did for, one big one in the city centre. I thought I understood the reasons why they didn't do that. But I don't know. I mean, in terms of the college, I mean, you know, outstanding, I guess, is what you'd want. Although I'm not too fussed about what inspectors say about the college. It's what the students think. That's the main thing. And can it retain its, you know, can it retain its sort of spirit, which is basically you come here and you can succeed.